There are 16 spots in the playoffs and just one track left. Well, not just any track. Daytona. A last chance to keep playoff hopes alive. It's time to bring your friends and family to watch the drama unfold up close and in person. NASCAR comes to Daytona International Speedway August 27th and 28th. Tickets start at just $49. Get yours at DaytonaInternationalSpeedway.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Life Well Lived by Amabala Stephen. It's an engaging and enlightening talk show on life, relationships, and the business of life. Grab a cup of juice and just chill. Life Well Lived by Amabala Stephen. Live life. Live fully.
You are now tuned in to this week's episode of our podcast. Today, we are going to interview some of the greatest and most influential minds in our field. By sharing our collective expertise, we will show you how to harness, control, and use your own skill set to achieve ultimate success and live the life you want. And now, please welcome your host.
Now, if you're seeking solution to how you can resolve your pain and reclaim your life, then you got it. My name is Amabala Stephen, and welcome to Life Well Lived by Amabala Stephen. Now, my podcast focuses on self-development, with the occasion of amazing and incredible guys who come to show to share insight and on the topics on the professional, on the personal development and self-improvement. So today I have Dr. MitchellYass, who is a physiotherapist on the show, and he's going to blow your mind on the topic of discussion, chronic pain and the proven method of treating it. Hi, welcome to Life Well Lived by Amabala Stephen, Dr. MitchellYass.
Thank you for having me. I hope this will be very enlightening and people will be able to see that they have a greater ability to resolve their pain than they had any idea.
Right. Now let's get to know you better.
Okay. Well, I do have a doctorate in physical therapy, but the method that I employ, I developed after my medical school education, which left me fairly inept in my ability to diagnose. As a physical therapist, you're typically treating based on a referring physician's diagnosis, which typically is derived from an MRI. So you're being told that the cause of their pain is structural. So what happened was I saw there was a disconnect. I would just ask the most obvious question: where's your pain? And what I would find is people would say that the pain is not where it should be if that identified structure, like a herniated disc or arthritis or stenosis, would be causing their pain. And that confused me. So I said, well, I think I need to explore more into how to interpret what those symptoms were. And what I found was that in more than 95% of cases, the cause of pain is muscular. It is a muscle responsible for your eliciting your pain. And you would know that because you would see that there is a level of dysfunction. What brings on your pain? You can't bend, you can't twist, you can't sit, you can't stand, you can't reach. So you're actually identifying that the cause of the pain relates to activity. And what tissue is responsible for activity? It's muscle.
Oh, great. So when should I be worried about muscle pain?
So when we're talking about muscle pain, let me just give a couple of core principles. Chronic pain has never existed in the history of mankind. It's only begun since the late 1890s, the 1980s and early 1990s. So you have to say, well, what brought it on? There's a clear answer: technology, automation, advancement in electronics, which has allowed people to do things less manually. As a result of this has led to people having less muscle strength. So when they do go to do things, they are more apt to strain themselves. The average person who had to deal with chronic pain prior to the late 1980s, early 1990s was the elderly, people who would retire, right? They're the ones they would say they have rheumatism, was the common phrase. Right? I'm treating people who are in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. What happened? It's the fact that they're dependent on their phones, their iPads. They do everything visually. They're not using their bodies anymore. And as a result, they're weakening. So ultimately, the cause of muscular pain is the fact that the force requirements of activity, gravity is pushing down on you. So you got to be able to push up against gravity to do stuff. all the muscles must be strong enough, or they're going to strain and elicit pain. And they could elicit pain in the muscle. They could elicit pain in a joint that they attach to. They could refer pain, or they can impinge on a nerve that then creates pain. So that's how I've established what the cause is. And the answer is to understand which muscles are responsible and strengthen the appropriate muscles to where the force output of the muscles is greater than the force requirement of their activities. And you are pain-free and fully functional.
Absolutely. Now, can you differentiate between acute pain and chronic pain?
Good. Excellent. So acute pain is the exact thing that I described to you. The fact that you're trying to do activities and the force output of your muscles is not strong enough. If the force, it's life exists quite simply. It's a relationship between the force output of the muscles and the force requirement to the activities. If the force output of the muscles is less than the force requirement of your activities, you're going to have symptoms. If the force output of your muscles is greater than the force requirement of your activities, you're not going to have symptoms. So we need to make sure that your muscles are strong enough. So if they're not, you will have pain. When does pain begin? At the inception of the stress of tissue. So your pain's going to begin when you strain your muscle. What is chronic pain? Why do you keep having pain after all this time? Because you keep getting diagnosed through the MRI, which finds a herniated disc and stenosis or a meniscal tear or a pinched nerve or arthritis, and you're being treated for that. The muscular actual cause, the tissue in distress eliciting symptom, is never identified. So you continue to strain your muscles, continue to try to do your activity, and continue to have pain. So my overriding principle is that chronic pain is a direct relationship to misdiagnosis.
Right. So can you tell me more about the Yass method? Why should I go for it instead of MRI?
So we've established that the MRI finds these structural variations, and they could be found in as many people without pain as with pain. It's pretty much a well-established fact that the MRI, there's a disconnect between MRI findings and the cause of pain. My question to you is, let's say that your lower back muscle strained, and it's the low back muscles that are eliciting your pain. How would that show up on an MRI? Let's say that you strained your hamstring and you're having pain near your knee joint. How does that show up on an MRI? Let's say that you strained your rotator cuff, not tore it, but just strained your rotator cuff, and you have an inability to move your arm. How does that show up on an MRI? It doesn't. It doesn't. So you must have a recognition that all potential causes of pain cannot be identified through the mechanism of the MRI or X-ray. Well, if not all possible causes can be identified, how do you know you're getting the right cause? Especially when those structural variations can be found in just about anybody over the age of 40, 50, or 60. It doesn't matter if you have pain or not. Doesn't matter if you're 6 foot or 5 foot. Doesn't matter if you have blonde hair or brown hair. The average person by the age of 50 or 60 are going to have structural variations. So the identification of them has nothing to do with identifying the tissue responsible for your pain. The Yass method interprets the symptoms that you're having, which are directly coming from the tissue in distress. So bones make specific types of symptoms, nerves make specific types of symptoms, and so do muscles. So by interpreting the symptoms, I can tell you exactly which tissue is responsible for your symptoms. And as I said, in more than 95% of cases, it is muscle, and it is easily resolvable through the appropriate exercise. That's what the Yass method gives you: the correct diagnosis, and when found to be muscle, the proper treatment to resolve your pain and allow you to be fully functional.
Right. Now, talking about exercise, if exercise is good for pain, right? What is your thoughts on why most people feel pain after exercise?
So this is you're starting to hit on something that's really, really big. So one of the great fears that people have in using my method is the idea that, oh my God, if I sit too long, I have pain. If I stand, I have pain. If I reach, I have pain. How could I possibly do exercise and not have pain? So the answer to that is the fact that when you're doing activity, you're using groups of muscles to perform those activities. Well, if there's a muscle that's weak, then that muscle doesn't have enough force output, so it's going to strain and elicit pain. When you're doing Yass method exercises, I isolate individual muscles. So when you're doing the exercise, you're using one joint, moving one joint in one direction. That's what muscles do. When you're doing that, there's no chance, if you're using an appropriate resistance to strengthen the muscle, to cause the muscle to have to adapt to a force that it's not capable of. So if you're doing these exercises correctly with the appropriate resistance, it's impossible to strain the muscle. Therefore, you can't have pain doing the exercises. And as we strengthen the individual muscles, all those individual muscles can go back into your activity, having enough strength. Now you don't have pain doing the activities. So you can't resolve pain by doing activities more. You have to isolate the weakened muscles, strengthen them independently, which you can do without question, without pain, then integrate that strength back into your activities. That's how you make yourself be able to be pain-free and functional when doing your activities.
Right. Dr. MitchellYass, is there anything like chronic pain syndrome? Do you like to buttress the point or share your view on that?
Chronic pain syndrome?
That's right.
I think that, so just imagine the phrase chronic pain syndrome. And there's a lot of syndromes that are used by the medical establishment. The word syndrome is defined as a group of symptoms without an understood etiology, which is to say that anyone who uses the phrase syndrome is saying, I don't know what's causing your pain. So it's kind of a cop-out diagnosis. A diagnosis is supposed to identify a tissue. So you have a kidney stone, you have a cirrhosis of the liver, you have a mitral valve prolapse. Saying you have chronic pain syndrome is to simply say you have pain and I don't know why. So it's a cop-out diagnosis. A proper diagnosis should identify the tissue responsible for the symptoms, which then allows you to create the appropriate treatment and which describes how you would resolve the distress of that tissue. So I don't even remotely buy into the idea of using things like fibromyalgia, chronic pain syndrome, any of these. There's one, complex regional pain syndrome is a very common thing. Complex regional pain syndrome just says you have pain in a big area and I don't know why you're having the pain. That's not a diagnosis. That's just an indication that you're having symptoms and I don't know why. You can't treat based on that. You got to know what tissue is responsible. That's, again, what the Yass method, how it separates itself from the rest of the techniques used to identify and treat the cause of pain.
All right. So you have a book on this chronic pain. Can you tell more about it?
So I have 3 books. One is Overpower Pain, one is The Pain Cure RX, and one is the Yass Method for Pain-Free Movement. Overpower Pain is designed with the understanding that you've accepted the idea that the cause is muscular. So I'm going to talk about all the individual joints of the body, and I'm going to describe what the most common muscular cause is. The Pain Cure RX is going to give you a lot of information about why you're having problems utilizing the existing medical system, what the evidence is, why you should really probably not depend on MRIs, and then allow you to interpret your symptoms at multiple joints to understand what multiple potential muscular causes are, and then provide you with the exercises to resolve that. The Yass Method for Pain-Free Movement actually looks at functional activities. You can't sit because you have pain. You can't look at a computer because you have neck pain. You can't lift something. So it goes by the loss of function and then describes what the muscular causes are relating to that. And again, gives you the exercises to allow you to resolve it. So each book has a different purpose.
All right. Thank you so much for that. So how can we access the book?
Amazon is the easiest way. They're all provided on Amazon. My name is fairly easy to remember. My last name, it's YASS. So if you just look up Dr. MitchellYass, you'll be able to on Amazon see the 3 books that are available.
Awesome. Quickly, Dr. Yass. So what are some of the activities that can help us, to prevent or avoid chronic pain?
So here's another really, really big thing that separates me from everybody else. So if you play golf and you have lower back pain, you go to the medical establishment, they're going to say, don't play golf. You have problems sitting, people are going to say, buy a standing desk. that's not going to ever be the answer, because every time you change one of these things, if you are not conditioned for the new activity, you're just setting up a different group of muscles to strain. The answer in life is that if you want to do activity, you must be conditioned for it. If you're going to work on a computer for 10 hours a day, you better strengthen your shoulder and shoulder blade muscles so that your arms are strong and supported, so you can have your arms on that keyboard for 8 to 10 hours a day. If you sit for long periods of time, you've got to watch out about certain muscles shortening from sitting. Well, you better strengthen the opposing muscles so that they don't have the tendency to shorten and eventually elicit pain. My answer to everybody is that the Yass method is a method of empowerment. It says that anytime you want to do something, as long as you understand which muscles are involved in that activity and you strengthen them appropriately, you could do it freely and with the most amount of joy that you want to have, because you'll be confident knowing you could do it fully without developing symptoms. And that's really what the message of the Yass method is.
All right. Can you quickly share with me some primary ways in which a muscle causes pain?
So the 4 primary ways muscle causes pain is: 1, a muscle can strain and it can cause another muscle to compensate and eventually elicit pain. Make sure you understand this premise, that in more than 99.999% of cases, the cause of your pain is not where you're experiencing the pain. It is not there. Don't let somebody just look in where you're having your pain and say, okay, I'm going to figure it out. It doesn't work like that. The body is a chain. It works as groups, and one muscle somewhere else is going to break down. It's going to cause something else to eventually break down. That's where you're going to see the symptom. So you're going to have to figure out where that initial breakdown was. Again, that's done through the physical evaluation. That is part of the Yass method. People have pain in their knee, around their kneecap, and they'll say, oh, an MRI says I have arthritis or a meniscal tear. That's the cause. That's not the cause. The kneecap is controlled by the muscle that sits above it, which is the front thigh muscle, the quadricep muscle. And the amount of tension that the kneecap has in the knee joint is based on how short or how long the front thigh muscle is. Well, the front thigh muscle is controlled by its relationship to the back thigh muscle, the hamstring. So if the front thigh muscle ends up getting too strong, it can shorten, which will cause an excessive compressive force in the kneecap, in the joint. So when you bend your knee, it's going to rub in a way that it wasn't designed. So you'll have knee joint pain, but there's nothing wrong with the structures. It's actually a muscular deficit. So joint pain can be created by muscles, weakness, or imbalance. Something people don't know: muscles can refer symptoms. For every person who lays on their side when they sleep and wakes up with their hand numb and is being told it's from their cervical spine, that's just nonsense. The rotator cuff muscle is actually being overstretched because your arm is being moved too far forward as you lay on it. The muscle attaches from the shoulder blade to the arm bone, so it's becoming overstretched, becomes irritated, and amazingly, it refers the symptom to the hand. So muscles can actually refer symptoms. Finally, you could have a muscle strain and impinge on a nerve. Sciatica. The biggest neurological deficit that exists is actually from a muscle in the gluteal region straining and impinging on the nerve. So it's a muscular cause creating a neurological symptom. You could think you're going to fix by going to a neurologist, a neurosurgeon. You're never going to fix sciatica that way. It has to be fixed muscularly. And it's related to hip weakness, a muscle that sits on the side of the hip. It's kind of right over my shoulder, this muscle right here called the gluteus medius. When that muscle strains, the piriformis that sits next to it tries to assist, but it wasn't designed to, so it strains and eventually impinges on the nerve. So sciatica, muscular cause creating a neurological symptom. Those are the 4 primary mechanisms of muscle creating pain. 95% of all cases are encased in those 4 causes.
Incredible. Thank you once again, Dr. MitchellYass, for your incredible insight.
Thank you.
On the subject of chronic pain and how we can overcome it, I wish you all the best in your project, right? Do you have any parting word you'd like to share with my audience?
Yeah, if someone wants to get in touch with me, you can obviously do it by email at Dr. Mitch, DRMITCH, at MITCHLLYASS.com. And if you'd like to see me, the great news is you can do so through Zoom. I've been doing Zoom sessions before there was Zoom through Skype. And so you could simply go to my website, It is livewithoutpains.com. Livewithoutpains, plural.com. And you could schedule a Zoom session. They're highly effective, and they're just as good as being in person for identifying and treating, as I said, more than 98% of cases of pain.
All right, absolutely. We'll get in touch, right? Wish you all the best once again, Dr. MitchellYass. Thank you also for your time on the show. Once again, I really appreciate this. I really had a blast on today's show. Got more exposed to why it's in pain and how we can overcome it. Thank you once again, and thank you, audience, for joining me on the show today. It's been an amazing time, right? I needed to stay safe always. With all my love, I talk to you soon.
Great. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Life Well Lived by Amabala Stephen. It's an engaging and enlightening talk show on life, relationships, and the business of life. Grab a cup of juice and just chill. Life Well Lived by Amabala Stephen. Live life. Live fully.
So hit me up, you know it's all I'm waiting for. Oh, would you hit me up? I've been waiting my whole life.
There are 16 spots in the playoffs and just one track left. Well, not just any track. Daytona, a last chance to keep playoff hopes alive. It's time to bring your friends and family to watch the drama unfold up close and in person. NASCAR comes to Daytona International Speedway August 27th and 28th. Tickets start at just $49. Get yours at DaytonaInternationalSpeedway.com. There are 16 spots in the playoffs and just one track left. Well, not just any track. Daytona, a last chance to keep playoff hopes alive. It's time to bring your friends and family to watch the drama unfold up close and in person. NASCAR comes to Daytona International Speedway August 27th and 28th. Tickets start at just $49. Get yours at DaytonaInternationalSpeedway.com.